Sketchy Al. Happy 2020 holidays, folks! As best as you can this year. Hoo boy. I've been looking back on Stoof due to quarantine, and there has been toys in my life that I recall with a great fondness to them. So I thought it might be neat to make a video about the kinds of toys I grew up with, and how I felt super lucky to get them in the first place. Because, yeah, getting toys were few and far between when I was growing up, especially during the holidays. Back in second grade, I had come to realize that making a Christmas wish list was kinda useless, because up until that point, all that my bro and I had received were books and clothing for the holiday. But that's what happens, I guess, when being raised by a very old school, always trying to be practical, grandmother. Sigh noise. Well, my very sweet second grade teacher had asked the class to make a Christmas list, and even though I thought it was pointless, I did as I was instructed because, school. I had only put down 2 things on the decorative Christmas themed paper because that was all I can think of at the time that I really wanted. My list was collected by the teacher, along with the other kids' written down wishes as well. And after that, I didn't think much more about it. Come Christmas morning, I was super surprised that everything on my wish list actually came true. I had received 2 identical My Little Ponies and a not-so-baby dinosaur. I ended up giving one of the baby ponies a main cut, so it would be a boy. That way, the baby ponies would be bro and sis. Because real-life inspiration.
Aww. So cute!
So it turned out, the teacher had given the list to my grandma at some point, and she had actually bought what I wrote down. That was the only time my list had come true, sadly, and then it was back to the usual books and clothes for many years after that, with one exception. That time with the Cabbage Patch Kids craze for a bit. Yikes! So my grandma ended up getting 2 of the dolls, one for each of us. But they were both the exact same model of doll, which gender-wise was a boy. What? I tried to hack mine into looking like a girl, but it ended up quite the hot mess. So, speaking of trends, my next Toy Story, involved a digital pet fad, during which my grandma ended up binge collecting Tamagotchis of all things.
Why?
Well, it was because they happened to be on sale in a big bin at the toy store. Not because she wanted to play with them herself, mind you. She was a bit too old school for that kind of tech, but she collected them in the first place because they came in various colors. Ooh! So she ended up getting around 8 to 12 of them because that hoarder habit of hers. Eesh! So I ended up getting to play with most of them. Once the batteries in the device I was playing with died, I would just go for the next one that was readily available because I didn't have the means to replace the batteries in the one I was using. Sometime later, I came across the perfect digital pet device for me. Before the Tamagotchis, Gigapets, and Digimons existing, which, fun fact, the anime was actually inspired from that toy. I was intrigued by the digital diaries that were on display at the old Radio Shack. Yeesh, those were some old school times. I never ended up getting one because of my penny pinching Mima, but that turned out to be a good thing. Because, years later, when I was at a Kmart, I came across a digital diary Gigapet combo. That exact model was just glorious for me. The color, the see-through case, and the fact that the pet itself was a dog. Not a cat or other possible critters they could have gone with, but a perfect puppy for this dog person. It was my pa that ended up getting it for my birthday. And I loved that thing for years to come. Thanks, Pa, for the perfect present to me. Speaking of dogs, there was a cartoon show that I was a big fan of at the time called This was at a time before furries was really a thing. The show took presidential pets and used a trans dog morpher thing to make them into superheroes. Young, dumb kid me loved the concept at the time. So when I happened to come across a random toy collection called Show Champions at a Toys R Us, my mind auto-clicked to the characters of the cartoon show. Now that's toyetic.
Toyetic is a word created by marketing people. It means an object or device featured in a cartoon that could easily become a mass-produced toy.
There was Hunter, a Labrador that loved his ball in the show, and this toy model came with a magnetic baseball that attached to the muzzle. There was also Colleen, the collie, a husky named Exile, and Blitz, a Doberman. But the toy set came with a German Shepherd instead. Close enough to kid me. The toy sets also came with small dogs as well, to which I was not interested in at all, since they were not part of the show. But I do remember coming up with rescue missions with the small dogs, except for the poodle. She ended up being a pampered biatch when I played with her, probably inspired by the character Georgette from the animated movie Oliver and Company.
Classic and classy, we're not talking lassie.
To be honest, I actually love that character now. My birth mom ended up getting 4 out of the 6 sets for me. The last 2 didn't have what I wanted anyways, and they weren't even carried at the store in the first place. Thanks to my Karen for getting them for me, especially since they weren't obtained for the holidays or my birthday. I never really got any toys out of the blue like that before, for the just because I want to give this to you reason, until she came to visit me and bro in New Mexico at that point. But I gotta share here the biggest and best toy score I ever got in my life. It happened one morning at a garage sale. My adoptive grandmother went to them a lot after church on Saturday mornings, and at that point, I was just plain sick of going to them. So I just waited in the car while she checked Stoof out without really getting anything for the most part. So I was really puzzled one morning when she was coming back to the car with 2 paper bags in hand, while a random lady following closely behind her carrying 2 more. When all 4 bags were placed in the trunk of the car, my mind was completely blown away. It was an entire collection of My Little Pony toys. Not only were there the usual Pegasus, unicorns, and basic land ponies, but also included were the sea ponies. And some flutter ponies, to which I never heard of them before. But wait, there was even more. There was a pony dollhouse, which was actually a nursery for the baby ponies. Accessories included. And there was even bed sheets and pillowcases to complete the entire collection. That was the most amazing surprise of my toy life that I ever got out of the blue. Sadly, years down the line, I was growing up and had that purge all the childish toys phase. So I took that vintage collection and put them into garbage bags because I didn't have boxes at the time, and I ended up storing them in the garage. A few years later, Ma's friend was house-sitting the New Mexico home when we were staying in SoCal, and they ended up getting thrown away. I shudder at the thought of the possible value of that Gen 1 collection, but most of all, I miss the sentimental association with them when I played with that very same set when I was a kid. I've been able to obtain my personal faves again, but it's just not the same, knowing that it's not the ones I grew up with. Close enough though to me, to be honest. There's also some other times when I got to play with my brother's toys as well, like Street Sharks.
Head Shark! Rocky Balboa action.
I wonder what happened to that young guy. And Mighty Max.
Mighty Max, Mighty Max. It's Mighty Max.
The boys' version of a Polly Pocket. But at this point, there's not really too much to tell with those toys, story-wise. Anyways, hope you all got some awesome toys from holidays past. I'd definitely love to hear the stories in the comment section below if you're up for sharing them here. Thanks again for your time, and happy holidays! The best you can this year. Hope to catch you around next year. Ciao!